The old car made a terrible grinding sound before it finally gave up. Steam poured from under the hood as Lisa pulled over to the side of the mountain road. She sat there for a moment, staring at the dashboard warning lights that had been blinking for the past 20 miles. "Perfect," she whispered to herself, her breath visible in the cold air inside the car. "Just perfect." The day had started badly and was getting worse by the hour. That morning, her boss had called her into his office with a fake smile and told her the company was restructuring. After 3 years of working overtime and missing family dinners, she was out. Just like that. No warning, no real explanation. Just a small severance check and a cardboard box for her desk items. Then came the call from her landlord. Late rent notices had been piling up, and he had finally run out of patience. She had until the end of the week to move out. The timing could not have been worse. With nowhere else to go and her savings nearly empty, Lisa had thrown her few belongings into her car and started driving. She had no clear destination in mind, just a desperate need to get away from the city and think. Maybe she could stay with her aunt up north, or find a cheap motel somewhere until she figured things out. But now her car had died on this lonely mountain road, and the situation was getting scary fast. Snow had been falling lightly when she left the city 3 hours ago. Now it was coming down hard, thick flakes swirling in the wind. The road ahead disappeared into a wall of white. She could barely see 10 feet in any direction. Lisa tried to start the car again. The engine turned over but would not catch. She tried several more times until even that sound died away. The battery was going dead. She pulled out her phone, hoping for a miracle. No signal. The screen showed those dreaded words, "No service." She was completely cut off from the world. The cold was starting to seep into the car now that the heater was not running. Lisa rubbed her hands together and pulled her thin jacket tighter. She had dressed for the city weather that morning, not expecting to end up stranded in a mountain snowstorm. Outside, the wind was picking up, rocking the small car back and forth. The snow was piling up on the windshield, making the world outside look even more frightening. She could hear tree branches creaking and snapping somewhere in the darkness. Lisa knew she had to make a choice. She could stay in the car and hope someone would come along, but the road seemed deserted. In this weather, even the local people were probably staying home. The car would get colder as the night went on, and she could freeze to death waiting for help that might never come. Her other option was to leave the car and look for shelter, but that meant walking into a blizzard with no idea where she was going. It seemed just as dangerous. As she sat there trying to decide, the cold was getting worse. Her fingers were starting to go numb, and she could feel herself shivering more and more. The car was becoming a metal box that would soon be as cold as the outside air. She had to move. Staying put was not really an option anymore. Lisa gathered what little she had, her purse, a water bottle, and a small bag with some snacks. She put on the only hat she had, a thin knit cap that would not do much good but was better than nothing, before opening the car door. She took a deep breath and tried to prepare herself for what was coming. The moment she stepped outside, the wind hit her like a wall of ice. Snow stung her face and immediately soaked through her jacket. The cold was so intense it took her breath away. She locked the car out of habit, even though it seemed pointless now. Then she started walking along the road, hoping to find something, anything, that could provide shelter. The wind made it hard to walk in a straight line. Snow got in her eyes and made it difficult to see where she was going. Her feet were already getting cold and wet in her city shoes. Each step was a struggle against the wind and the growing snowdrifts. After what felt like forever, but was probably only 10 minutes, Lisa was ready to give up. She could not feel her hands anymore, and her whole body was shaking uncontrollably. The cold was making her mind fuzzy, and she was having trouble thinking clearly. That was when she saw it. Just barely visible through the swirling snow was a faint, warm light. It looked like it was coming from a window, which meant there was a building somewhere ahead. New hope gave her strength to keep going. She left the road and headed toward the light, stumbling through deeper snow. Branches caught at her clothes, and she fell down twice, but she kept going. The light was getting brighter, which meant she was getting closer. Finally, She could make out the shape of a small wooden cabin. Smoke was rising from a chimney, and golden light glowed from the windows. It looked like the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Lisa stumbled up to the front porch, her legs barely working anymore. She was so cold that her body was shutting down. Her thinking was getting slower and more confused. She knew these were signs of hypothermia, something she had learned about in a first aid class years ago. She made it to the front door and tried to knock, but her hands were too numb to make much noise. She leaned against the door and used her shoulder to bump against it, hoping someone inside would hear. Her strength was almost gone. The cold had drained everything out of her. She slid down the door and sat on the porch, unable to stand anymore. Snow continued to pile up around her as she struggled to stay awake. This was not how she had imagined her life would go. Just this morning she had been a working person with an apartment and a routine. Now she was a homeless woman freezing to death on a stranger's porch in the middle of nowhere. She closed her eyes for just a moment, telling herself she would rest for a few seconds and then try knocking again. But the cold was making her so tired. It would be so easy to just sleep for a little while. That was when she heard footsteps inside the cabin and the sound of a door lock turning. Light spilled out onto the porch as the door opened, and a man's voice said something she could not quite understand. Strong hands lifted her up, and she felt warmth surrounding her as she was carried inside. The last thing she remembered before everything went black was the crackling sound of a fire and the feeling of being safe for the first time all day. Sometimes help comes when you least expect it, from people you have never met, in places you never thought you would be. David had been reading by the fire when he heard the strange thumping sound at his front door. At first, he thought it might be a tree branch blown by the wind. But then it came again, weaker this time, and he realized someone was out there. He opened the door and found a young woman collapsed on his porch, covered in snow and barely conscious. Her lips were blue, and she was shaking so hard she could barely speak. One look told him everything he needed to know. This was serious hypothermia. Without hesitation, David scooped her up and carried her inside. She was lighter than he expected, and he could feel how cold she was even through her wet clothes. He laid her down on the couch near the fireplace and quickly went to work. First, he needed to get her out of those wet clothes before she lost any more body heat. He found some of his warmest clothes and a thick bathrobe, then politely looked away while helping her change. Her hands were too numb to work properly, so he had to help with buttons and sleeves. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked gently as he wrapped her in heavy blankets. Lisa," she managed to say through chattering teeth. "Okay, Lisa, I'm David. You're going to be fine, but we need to warm you up slowly." He had learned about hypothermia during his years working construction in cold weather. The key was to warm someone up gradually, not too fast, or it could be dangerous. He built up the fire and moved her closer to it, but not too close. Next, he went to the kitchen and made hot tea with honey. Not coffee, which could affect her heart when she was this cold, but warm, sweet tea that would help raise her core temperature safely. "Here, drink this slowly," he said, holding the cup to her lips. Small sips. Lisa wrapped her hands around the warm cup, and he could see some feelings starting to come back to her fingers. Color was slowly returning to her face, though. She was still shivering as the warmth began to work. Lisa became more aware of where she was and what had happened. She looked around the small cabin, taking in the handmade furniture, the tools hanging on the walls, and the kind stranger who had saved her life. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice stronger now. "You saved my life." David waved off her thanks. Anyone would have done the same thing. But Lisa knew that was not true. In her experience, people usually wanted something in return for their help. Nobody did anything for free anymore. As her thinking cleared up, she started to worry about what this stranger might expect from her. She had no money to pay him. She had no way to repay this kindness. But she knew she owed him everything. Without his help, she would have died on that porch tonight. The thoughts swirled in her confused and exhausted mind. She had been on her own for so long, fighting to survive in a world that seemed to take more than it gave. Every job, Every relationship, every interaction had taught her that nothing came without a price. Listen, she said quietly, looking down at her hands. I don't have any money to pay you back, but I know I owe you for this. For saving me, if you if you need. She could not finish the sentence, but her meaning was clear. David looked at her with surprise and then something that might have been sadness. He sat down in the chair across from her and spoke in a gentle but firm voice. No, he said simply. You don't owe me anything. Lisa looked up at him, confused. But you saved my life. I have to pay you back somehow. No, you don't. David leaned forward, his hands clasped together. Lisa, helping someone who's in trouble isn't something you do to get paid back. It's just what you do because it's right. She stared at him, trying to understand. But everyone wants something. Everyone expects something in return. Not everyone, David said quietly. Some people have forgotten how to help without expecting anything back. But that doesn't mean everyone is like that. He got up and added another log to the fire. We're dying out there. Any decent person would have brought you inside and helped you get warm. That's not something you owe me for. That's just being human. Lisa felt tears starting in her eyes, though she was not sure why. Maybe it was relief or exhaustion or just the overwhelming kindness of this stranger. She had been so sure that survival meant always being ready to pay a price for everything. I don't understand, she whispered. David sat back down and looked at her with patient eyes. When I was a kid, my family got caught in a flood. We lost everything. Our house, our car, all our belongings. We had nowhere to go and no money for a hotel. He paused, remembering. A family we barely knew took us in, fed us, gave us clothes, let us stay for 2 weeks until we could figure things out. When my dad tried to pay them, they refused. They said that's just what neighbors do for each other. Did you ever pay them back? Lisa asked. Not them, no. But over the years, I've helped other people when they needed it. That's how kindness works. It doesn't go backward to pay off a debt. It goes forward to help the next person who needs it. Lisa sat quietly taking this in. It was such a different way of thinking from what she had learned. In her world, everything was a transaction. Help always came with strings attached. You really don't want anything from me? She asked. What I want? David said, is for you to get warm and safe and healthy again. That's it. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to get your car fixed or get you where you need to go. But tonight you just rest and get better. He stood up and went to a closet, pulling out extra pillows and another blanket. You can sleep here on the couch. Tonight it's warm and comfortable. I'll be in my room if you need anything. As he was setting up her sleeping area, Lisa watched him with new eyes. She had been so used to people who wanted something from her that she had forgotten there might be people who didn't. David, she said as he was about to head to his room. Yeah? Thank you. Not just for saving me, but for showing me that good people still exist. He smiled, the first real smile she had seen from him. Get some sleep, Lisa. Things will look better in the morning. After he left, Lisa lay on the couch listening to the wind outside and the crackling of the fire. For the first time in months, she felt truly safe. Not because she had paid for safety or earned it somehow, but because someone had simply decided to be kind. It was a feeling she had almost forgotten existed. Lisa woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the events of the night before came flooding back. The broken car, the blizzard nearly freezing to death, and the stranger who had saved her life. She sat up on the couch and looked around the cabin in the morning light. It was small but well built, with handmade wooden furniture and tools hanging neatly on the walls. Everything had a careful, crafted feel to it, like someone who took pride in making things with his hands. Good morning, David called from the kitchen. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you. Lisa stood up and immediately felt dizzy. The events of yesterday had taken more out of her than she realized. Sit back down, David said, bringing her a cup of coffee. Your body is still recovering. Hypothermia takes a lot out of you. She accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. Outside, snow was still falling, though not as heavily as the night before. The world looked completely white, peaceful, and quiet. "I should call someone about my car," Lisa said, "and I should get out of your way." "The phone lines are down because of the storm," David replied, setting a plate of eggs and bacon in front of her. "And you're not in my way. Eat something." "You need to get your strength back?" Lisa looked at the food suspiciously. In her experience, every meal came with expectations. Every favor had a price attached. "What do you want me to do to pay for this?" she asked. David looked puzzled. "Pay for what?" "The food. The place to sleep, all of this," she gestured around the cabin. "Nobody gives away free meals and free rooms." "I do," David said simply, sitting down with his own plate. Lisa stared at him. "But why? What's in it for you?" David was quiet for a moment, chewing his food thoughtfully. "Can I ask you something, Lisa? Who taught you that everything has to be paid for with something other than gratitude?" The question caught her off guard. "Life taught me that. Experience taught me that." "What kind of experiences?" Lisa set down her fork, suddenly not hungry anymore. "You really want to know? Only if you want to tell me." She was quiet for a long time, looking out the window at the falling snow. Finally, she began to speak. "When I was 16, my mom got sick, really sick. We didn't have insurance and the medical bills were crushing us. Our neighbor, Mr. Henderson, offered to help. He said he would pay for her treatments, no questions asked." David listened without interrupting. But there were questions. And there were expectations. He started coming around more often. Started asking my mom to do things for him. Started looking at me in ways that made me uncomfortable. When my mom got better and we tried to distance ourselves, he demanded the money back immediately. We couldn't pay it, so he took us to court. Lisa's voice was getting harder, more bitter. We lost our house. My mom had to declare bankruptcy. Mr. Henderson got everything we had left, and it still wasn't enough to cover what he said we owed him. "I'm sorry," David said quietly. "That was just the beginning," Lisa continued. "In college, my boyfriend offered to help me pay tuition. He loved me and wanted to support my education. But every time we had an argument, he would throw that money in my face. Said I owed him my loyalty, my time, my body because he was paying for my school." She took a shaky sip of coffee. "Then there was my boss at the job I just lost. He gave me promotions, raises, special projects. Always said it was because I was such a good worker. But the whole time he was building up a debt in his mind. He expected me to work weekends, cancel plans, miss family events. And when I finally said no to something, he acted like I had betrayed him." David was quiet, letting her talk. "So you—" "See," Lisa said, "I've learned that when someone helps you, they're really just creating a debt that you'll have to pay later. And usually you end up paying more than the help was worth." "Those people weren't helping you," David said finally. "They were buying you. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I sit, it all looks the same." David got up and started clearing the breakfast dishes. Lisa immediately jumped up to help. "You don't have to do that," he said. Double quotes. "Yes, I do. I have to do something to earn my keep." "Lisa, sit down." "No, I need to help. I need to pay you back somehow." "You don't owe me anything?" "Yes, I do." Lisa's voice was getting louder, more desperate. "Everyone wants something eventually. Everyone keeps score. You're just being nice. Now, but later you'll tell me what I really owe you." David stopped washing dishes and turned to look at her. "Is that really what you think of me?" "I don't know what to think of you," Lisa said, tears starting in her eyes. "I don't understand why you're being kind to me. People aren't kind for no reason. Some people are. Not in my experience." David dried his hands and sat back down at the table. "Lisa, I want to tell you something about me. Something that might help you understand." She sat down reluctantly, still tense and ready to defend herself. 3 years ago, I had a different life. I was married to a wonderful woman named Amy. We lived in the city, and I had a successful construction business. We were planning to start a family." His voice got softer. "Amy was driving home from work one night when her car slid on some ice. She hit a tree and died instantly. Lisa felt her anger drain away, replaced by something she didn't expect, sympathy. After she died, people tried to help me. Friends, family, neighbors, but they all wanted something back. They wanted me to be grateful in a specific way, or to grieve on their timeline, or to be the person they thought I should be. David looked out the window. They wanted to fix me, change me, make me better according to their rules. When I couldn't do that, they got frustrated and eventually gave up. So you came here? Lisa said. So I came here. To get away from all those people who wanted to help me for their own reasons. He looked at her directly. Which is why I understand what you're feeling right now. Then why are you helping me? Lisa asked. If you came here to get away from people? Because you're not trying to fix me or change me or get something from me. You're just a person who needed help. Helping you doesn't remind me of Amy or make me think about my old life. It just feels like the right thing to do. Lisa sat quietly, processing this. So you really don't want anything from me? I want you to be safe and healthy. I want you to find whatever you're looking for in life. But I don't want anything from you personally, no. I don't know how to believe that, Lisa admitted. You don't have to believe it right now, David said. But maybe while you're here you can just observe, watch what I do and don't do. See if my actions match my words? Lisa nodded slowly. It was more trust than she had given anyone in years, but somehow it felt safe to try. Outside, the snow continued to fall, keeping them both. Inside the warm cabin where trust could grow slowly, one honest conversation at a time. The snow kept falling for 3 more days. Lisa found herself trapped in the cabin with David, and slowly, her walls began to come down. She watched him carefully at first, looking for signs that he wanted something from her. But David went about his daily routine without asking her for anything. He cooked meals and shared them without keeping track. He gave her space when she needed it and conversation when she seemed lonely. On the second day, she tried to clean the entire cabin while he was outside chopping wood. You don't need to do that, he said when he came back inside to find her scrubbing the kitchen floor. I want to help, Lisa insisted. I can't just sit here doing nothing. Why not? The question stopped her. Because I have to earn my place here. David sat down at the kitchen table and watched her scrub. Lisa, what would happen if you just sat down and didn't do anything productive for an hour? I don't know what you mean. I mean, what if you just existed here without earning anything or paying for anything? What do you think would happen? Lisa stopped scrubbing and looked at him. You would get tired of me. You would want me to leave. Would I? Everyone does. David was quiet for a moment. Tell me about your family. Lisa sat back on her heels. The cleaning forgotten. What about them? Were they like the other people you told me about? Did they keep score too? Lisa's face changed, becoming more guarded. My family is ... complicated. Most families are. She stood up and rinsed out the cleaning cloth, taking her time. David waited patiently. My parents divorced when I was 12, she finally said. It was ugly. They fought about everything, especially money. Every dollar my dad spent on me, my mom would throw in his face later. Every gift my mom bought me, my dad would say she was trying to buy my love. She sat down at the table across from David. They turned me into a weapon they used against each other. Tell your father he owes me money for your school clothes. Tell your mother I already paid more than my share this month. That must have been hard. I learned that love always came with receipts. That every kindness was really a debt that would be called in later. Lisa's voice was flat, matter of fact. When I graduated high school, they both stopped pretending to care. I was 18, so their legal obligation was over. David shook his head. That's not how love is supposed to work. How is it supposed to work? The question was so genuine, so honestly confused, that David felt his heart break a little for her. Love isn't supposed to keep score, he said. Real love gives because it wants to, not because it expects something back. That sounds nice in theory, Lisa said, but I've never seen it work that way in real life. I have. Tell me. David got up and put the kettle on for tea. While he waited for it to boil, he seemed to be deciding how much to share. Amy and I met in college, he began. I was working construction to pay for school, and I was always exhausted. I fell asleep in class all the time. My grades were terrible. He poured hot water over tea bags and brought 2 cups to the table. Amy was the smartest person in our economics class. She could have dated anyone. But she started leaving little notes on my desk before class. Not love notes, just reminders about assignments I had missed or study guides for tests. Lisa wrapped her hands around the warm cup. What did she want in return? That's what I asked her. When I finally got the courage to talk to her, I asked what I could do to pay her back for helping me. What did she say? David smiled at the memory. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said, "Pay me back?" David, I was just being nice. Sometimes people are nice because they want to be, not because they want something. And you believed her? Not at first. I kept waiting for the catch. I was like you, always looking for the hidden price tag. He sipped his tea. But Amy never asked for anything. She helped me study and my grades got better. She invited me to dinner and she actually paid for her own meal. She introduced me to her friends without expecting me to entertain them or impress them. Lisa listened, trying to imagine what that kind of relationship would feel like. After we graduated, I started my construction business. It was really hard at first. I was working 8-hour days, stressed all the time, not making much money. David's voice got softer. Amy had a good job at a bank. She could have dated men with more money, more stability, but she stuck with me. Did she help you financially? She offered to, many times, but I was too proud to accept it. David laughed. She was smarter than me about that, too. Instead of arguing with me, she just started bringing groceries when she came over. Said she was cooking dinner and had bought too much food. Sneaky? Yeah, she was, but it was good sneaky. Kind sneaky. David's expression grew sadder. She helped me in 100 little ways that I didn't even notice until after she was gone. What kinds of ways? She remembered things I forgot. She listened when I had bad days. She celebrated with me when things went well. She never made me feel like I owed her for any of it. Lisa tried to imagine having someone like that in her life. It seemed almost too good to be true. How did you know she really loved you? Lisa asked. How did you know she wasn't just investing in you somehow? David was quiet for a long time. Because she loved me even when I couldn't give her anything back. What do you mean? When my business was failing, when I was depressed and difficult to be around, when I had nothing to offer, she still loved me. When I got sick with pneumonia and was stuck in bed for 2 weeks, she took care of me without complaining. When I made mistakes that cost us money or caused problems, she helped me fix them instead of making me feel guilty. David stared into his teacup. Real love doesn't leave when you can't pay your bills. It doesn't disappear when you're not useful anymore. Lisa felt something tight in her chest, something that might have been grief for all the love she had. Never experienced? Do you think everyone can have that? She asked quietly. I think everyone deserves it, David said. But I think some people have to learn how to accept it first. What do you mean? I mean that if you spend your whole life expecting people to hurt you, you might push away the people who actually want to help. Lisa considered this. Are you saying it's my fault that people have treated me badly? No, David said firmly. It's not your fault that people hurt you, but it might be within your power to learn how to recognize the people who won't. They sat quietly, drinking their tea and watching the snow fall outside. For the first time in her adult life, Lisa was in a space where she didn't have to perform or produce or pay for her presence. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. David, she said after a while. Yeah? I'm sorry about Amy. She sounds like she was a really special person. She was Do you think she would have liked me? David looked at her with surprise, then smiled. Yeah, I think she would have. She always liked people who were honest about their struggles. She would have appreciated how hard you're trying to figure all this out. For the first time since arriving at the cabin, Lisa felt like maybe she was worth something beyond what she could offer other people. It was a small feeling, fragile and new, but it was there. Outside, the snow continued to fall, giving them more time to heal in the safety of the warm cabin. On the fourth morning, Lisa woke up to sunshine streaming through the cabin windows. The storm had finally passed, leaving behind a world transformed by snow. Everything looked clean and bright and new. David was already up, standing at the kitchen window with a cup of coffee. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said when he noticed her looking around. "It's amazing," Lisa agreed. "I've never seen snow like this before." Mountain snow is different than city snow, cleaner somehow. Lisa joined him at the window. The view took her breath away. Snow-covered pine trees stretched down the mountainside like a Christmas card. The sky was brilliant blue, and the sun made everything sparkle. "I should check on your car today," David said. "See if we can get it running or if we need to call for a tow truck." The mention of her car brought Lisa back to reality. She had been so comfortable in the cabin that she had almost forgotten about the outside world, but she couldn't stay here forever. David had his own life to live. "You're right," she said. "I should get out of your hair." David turned to look at her. "You're not in my hair, Lisa, but I know you probably have places to be." Did she? Lisa tried to think about what was waiting for her in the outside world. No job, no apartment, no clear plan for what came next. The thought of leaving this safe, warm place made her stomach knot up with anxiety. "Actually," she said slowly, "I don't really have anywhere specific to go." "What do you mean?" Lisa told him about losing her job and her apartment on the same day, about driving away from the city with no destination in mind, about how completely her life had fallen apart. "So when I get my car fixed," she finished, "I guess I'll just keep driving until I figure something out." David was quiet for a moment, thinking, "What kind of work do you do?" "I was in marketing for a software company, but I also did their bookkeeping and helped organize their client files. I'm pretty good with computers and organizing systems." David said, but didn't elaborate. After breakfast, they bundled up and walked down to where Lisa's car sat buried in snow. David brought a shovel and started digging it out while Lisa tried to help. "This is a lot of snow," she said, breathing hard from the effort. "Mountain storms don't mess around," David replied. "But the good news is your car doesn't look damaged. Just dead battery and maybe some other issues from sitting in the cold." They worked together for an hour, digging out the car and clearing snow from the road. Lisa found herself enjoying the physical work. It felt good to be doing something useful alongside David instead of just accepting his help. When they finally got the car cleared, David popped the hood and examined the engine. "I think I can get this running," he said, "but it's going to need some work. The battery is dead, and I can see a few other problems that should be fixed before you drive it anywhere far." "How much will that cost?" Lisa asked, dreading the answer. "Well, I can do most of the work myself. I've got tools and I know my way around engines." "The parts might cost a couple $100, though." Lisa's heart sank. She had maybe $50 left to her name. "I can't afford that right now," she admitted. "Maybe I should just call a junkyard and see what they'll give me for it." "That seems like a waste," David said. "It's a good car, just needs some attention." They walked back to the cabin in silence, Lisa trying to figure out what her options were. Without a working car, she was truly stranded. Back inside, David made lunch while Lisa sat at the table feeling defeated. Everything seemed impossible. No money, no transportation, nowhere to go. "Can I ask you something?" David said as they ate. "Sure." "What were you planning to do for work once you got wherever you were going?" "I don't know. Find another marketing job, I guess. Or maybe something in bookkeeping. I'm good with numbers and organization." David nodded thoughtfully. "I might have an idea." "What kind of idea?" "Well, my woodworking business has been growing. I make custom furniture and cabinets, and I sell some pieces online, but I'm terrible at the business side of things." Lisa looked at him with interest. "My bookkeeping is a mess," David continued. "I have orders written on scraps of paper, receipts stuffed in shoe boxes, and I can never find anything when I need it. I've been meaning to get organized, but I don't know where to start." "That does sound like a mess," Lisa said. "And my online presence is basically non-existent. I have a basic website that I made myself, but it's terrible. I don't do any marketing or social media. Most of my business comes from word of mouth. Lisa's mind started working. You could probably double your business with better organization and marketing. That's what I was thinking. Would you be interested in helping me with that? Lisa felt a familiar wariness creep in. What do you mean exactly? I mean, maybe you could stay here for a while and help me get my business organized. I could pay you a fair wage, and you'd have a place to stay while you figure out your next steps. David, Lisa said carefully, what would you really want from me if I stayed? I would want you to help me run my business better. That's it? Nothing else? Nothing else. Lisa studied his face, looking for signs of deception. But David met her eyes directly, his expression open and honest. What would the living arrangements be? She asked. There's a small guest room upstairs that I use for storage right now. We could clear it out and make it into a proper bedroom for you. You'd have your own space and privacy. And if I wanted to leave? Then you'd leave. No questions asked, no guilt trips. Lisa felt that familiar fear rising up. It sounded too good to be true, which in her experience meant it probably was. I don't know, she said. This feels like it could get complicated. It could, David agreed. But it doesn't have to. We could try it for a month and see how it goes. If either of us is unhappy with the arrangement, we call it off. What if you decide you want something more from me than just business help? David looked at her seriously. Lisa, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not ready for anything romantic with anyone. I may never be ready for that again. Amy was the love of my life, and I don't think I have that kind of love left to give someone else. Something about his honesty made Lisa believe him. And if I develop feelings for you? She asked. Then we deal with that honestly if it happens. But it wouldn't change our business arrangement or your right to stay here. Lisa looked around the cabin, trying to imagine what it would be like to live here for a while. To have a real job and a real place to stay. To work alongside someone who treated her with respect. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. That afternoon, David showed her his workshop in the barn behind the cabin. Lisa was amazed by what she saw. Beautiful handcrafted tables, chairs, and cabinets filled the space. The quality of work was extraordinary. David, these are incredible, she said, running her hand along a smooth tabletop. People pay thousands of dollars for furniture like this in the city? Really? Really. You're charging way too little for your work. She looked around at the chaos of papers, receipts, and notes scattered everywhere. But I can see why your business isn't growing. This organization system would drive me crazy. So you think you could help? Lisa looked at the beautiful furniture, then at David's hopeful face. For the first time in months, she felt excited about something. Yeah, she said. I think I could help a lot. Maybe, just maybe, this was the fresh start she had been looking for without even knowing it. 3 weeks later, Lisa had transformed David's business completely. She had organized all his paperwork, set up a proper bookkeeping system, and created an inventory of all his finished pieces. She had also built him a professional website and started social media accounts that showcased his beautiful work. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Orders started pouring in from all over the country. People who saw his furniture online were willing to pay premium prices for custom pieces. I can't believe this, David said, looking at the computer screen full of new orders. This is more business than I usually get in 6 months. You're an artist, David, Lisa said. You just needed people to see your art. She had found purpose in the work, and more importantly, she had found peace in the routine of their days. She would spend mornings organizing orders and managing customer communications, while David worked in his shop. In the afternoons, she often helped him with measurements and planning while he taught her about woodworking. Evenings were spent by the fire, talking about everything and nothing. Lisa had never felt so comfortable with another person. David never made her feel like she owed him anything beyond her work, and gradually she had started to believe that maybe this was what normal relationships look like, but deep down, she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. On a Tuesday morning, the phone rang while David was out in the workshop. Lisa answered it at the desk where she had set up her office space. "Hello, is this Lisa Chun?" the voice asked. "Yes, this is Lisa. This is Jennifer Chun, your sister. I've been trying to find you for weeks." Lisa's heart started racing. She hadn't talked to Jennifer in over 2 years, not since their last fight about money and family obligations. "How did you find me?" Lisa asked. "I hired a private investigator." "Lisa, I've been worried sick about you. Your landlord said you moved out suddenly, and your job said you were let go. I thought something terrible had happened." "I'm fine," Lisa said quickly. "I'm working now. I have a place to stay." "Where are you? The number I'm calling shows a location in the mountains somewhere." Lisa hesitated. How could she explain her situation to her sister? How could she describe living in a cabin with a man she barely knew, working for his furniture business? "It's complicated," she said finally. "Lisa, are you safe? Are you with someone who's taking advantage of you?" The question hit Lisa like a punch. Was David taking advantage of her? She didn't think so, but Jennifer's concern brought back all her old fears. "I'm safe," she said. "I'm working for someone who makes furniture. It's a legitimate job. Where are you living?" "I have my own room." It's fine, Jennifer." There was a long pause. "Lisa, I want you to come stay with me." "What?" "I got a promotion at work. I have a 3-bedroom house now, and I make good money. You could stay here as long as you need to. Get back on your feet, find a real job." "This is a real job, you know what I mean. A career job with benefits and security. You can't just hide out in the mountains forever." Lisa looked around the cabin that had become home. "I'm not hiding, aren't you?" "Lisa, you're living with some stranger in the middle of nowhere. What happens when he gets tired of you? What happens when he decides he wants something you're not willing to give?" The words hit too close to Lisa's own fears. "It's not like that." "How do you know? Lisa, you've always been too trusting." "Remember what happened with Tom in college? Remember Mr. Henderson?" Lisa felt her chest getting tight. "This is different, is it? Or are you just telling yourself that because you don't have anywhere else to go?" "I have to think about this," Lisa said. "Don't think too long. I can wire you money for a bus ticket today. You could be here by tomorrow night." After Lisa hung up, she sat staring at the phone for a long time. Jennifer's words had awakened all the doubts she had been trying to suppress. Was she being naive? Was she setting herself up to be hurt again? When David came in for lunch, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. "You okay?" he asked. "My sister called. That's good, right? You said you hadn't talked to her in a while." Lisa told him about the conversation, watching his face for signs of anger or possessiveness. Would he try to convince her to stay? Would he make her feel guilty for considering leaving? But David just listened quietly until she was finished. "Sounds like your sister cares about you," he said finally. "She thinks I should leave here. She thinks I'm making a mistake." "What do you think?" Lisa looked at him in surprise. "You're not going to try to talk me out of it, should I?" "I don't know. I'm asking you." David sat down across from her at the kitchen table. "Lisa, these past few weeks have been really good for me. Having you here, working together, having someone to talk to. It's helped me more than you know." Lisa waited for the but, David continued. "I don't want you to stay because you feel trapped or because you don't have other options. I want you to stay because you want to be here." "What if I'm not sure what I want?" "Then maybe you should go visit your sister and figure it out." Lisa stared at him. "You want me to leave?" "I want you to be happy and safe and confident in your choices. If staying here makes you doubt yourself, then maybe leaving is the right thing to do. But what about the business? You have all these new orders. I'll figure it out. I managed before you came, and I can manage again." Lisa felt tears starting in her eyes. "Why are you making this so easy?" "Because that's what you do for people you care about," David said gently. "You let them make their own choices, even when those choices are hard for you." That afternoon, David helped her research bus schedules and ticket prices. He didn't try to change her mind or point out all the reasons she should stay. He just supported her decision, whatever it turned out to be. "I could send you your pay for the work you've done," he said. And if you decide you want to come back, the job will be here. Just like that? Just like that. That evening, Lisa called Jennifer back and told her she would take the bus to Seattle. Jennifer was relieved and excited, already making plans for job interviews and apartment hunting. But as Lisa packed her few belongings, she felt a sadness she hadn't expected. The cabin had become more than just a place to stay. It had become a place where she felt valued for who she was, not what she could provide. "I carved something for you," David said, appearing in the doorway of her room. He handed her a small wooden bird, smooth and beautiful, with intricate details in the feathers and wings. "It's a mountain bluebird," he said. "They're symbols of hope and renewal." Lisa held the bird carefully in her hands. "It's beautiful. I wanted you to have something to remember this place by, and to remember that you always have a home here if you need one." Lisa looked up at him, this man who had saved her life and asked for nothing in return, who had given her work and respect and friendship without keeping score. "David," she said, "thank you for everything." "Thank you," he replied, "for showing me that I could trust someone again too." The next morning, David drove her to the bus station in town. The goodbye was awkward and painful, full of things neither of them knew how to say. As the bus pulled away, Lisa watched the mountains get smaller in the distance. She was heading toward a new life with her sister, toward opportunities and security. So why did it feel like she was leaving home instead of going to it? The bus ride to Seattle took 14 hours, and Lisa spent most of it staring out the window and thinking. As the mountains gave way to cities and highways, she felt like she was traveling between two different worlds. Jennifer was waiting at the bus station with a big smile and an even bigger hug. "You look good," Jennifer said, studying her sister's face. "Better than I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. You sounded so strange on the phone. I was worried you were in some kind of bad situation." Jennifer's house was everything she had promised. It was spacious and modern, with a guest room that had its own bathroom and plenty of privacy. Jennifer had clearly done well for herself, with a successful career in finance and a lifestyle that showed it. "This is amazing," Lisa said, looking around the guest room. "Thank you for letting me stay here." "You're my sister," Jennifer said. "Of course you can stay here as long as you need to." That first week, Jennifer threw herself into helping Lisa rebuild her life. She took her shopping for professional clothes, helped her update her resume, and used her business connections to set up job interviews. "I've got you an interview at my company on Friday," Jennifer announced over dinner. "It's a marketing coordinator position. The pay is excellent and the benefits are amazing." "That sounds great," Lisa said, though something felt off about it. "And I found some apartment listings in your price range. Once you get the job, we can start looking at places." Lisa nodded and smiled, but inside she felt strange. Everything Jennifer was offering was exactly what she should want. Security, opportunity, a fresh start in a real city with real career prospects. So why did she feel so empty? The job interview went well. Lisa's experience and the portfolio of work she had done for David impressed the hiring manager. They offered her the position on the spot with a salary that was more than she had ever made before. "Congratulations," Jennifer said when Lisa called with the news. "I knew you'd get it. We're going to celebrate tonight." At dinner, Jennifer raised her wine glass in a toast. "To new beginnings and fresh starts." "To new beginnings," Lisa echoed, but the words felt hollow in her mouth. "So tell me about this furniture maker you were working for," Jennifer said. "What was that all about?" Lisa tried to explain about David and his business, about the beautiful work he did and how she had helped him organize and grow it. "Sounds like you were basically his secretary," Jennifer said. "That's fine for a temporary thing, but you're capable of so much more than that." "It wasn't just secretarial work. I was managing his entire business. A one-man furniture operation in the mountains?" "Lisa, that's not a real business. That's a hobby that got out of hand." Lisa felt a flash of anger. "David is incredibly talented. His work is beautiful, and people are willing to pay premium prices for it. I'm sure it's nice, but where's the growth potential? Where are the benefits, the retirement plan, the career advancement? Not everything is about career advancement. Jennifer looked at her with concern. Lisa, what happened to you up there? You used to be so ambitious, so focused on building a real career. I'm still focused on my career. Are you? Because it sounds like you got comfortable playing house with some stranger in the woods. It wasn't like that. What was it like then? Lisa struggled to put it into words. How could she explain the peace she had found in that cabin? The satisfaction of meaningful work? The comfort of being valued for who she was rather than what she could achieve. It was the first time in my adult life that I felt genuinely safe, she said finally. Jennifer's expression softened. Oh, honey, that's not safety. That's just hiding from the real world. Maybe the real world is the problem. The real world is where we live, Lisa. You can't just run away to some fantasy cabin whenever life gets hard. That night, Lisa lay in the comfortable guest bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about David, probably working alone in his shop, dealing with all the new orders by himself. She thought about the organized office space she had created, wondering if he was managing to keep it tidy. She thought about their evening conversations by the fire, and the way he never made her feel like she had to be anyone other than herself. She pulled the wooden bird from her knitstand and held it in the darkness. Even here, hundreds of miles away, it made her feel connected to that place of peace she had found. Over the next few weeks, Lisa threw herself into her new job. The work was fine, the people were nice, and the paycheck was substantial. She should have been happy, but she wasn't. Every day felt like she was playing a role that didn't quite fit. She smiled at the right times, said the right things, and performed her duties competently. But she felt like she was watching her life from the outside, going through the motions without really being present. You seem distracted lately, her new boss mentioned during a check-in meeting. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, Lisa assured her, just still adjusting to the new routine. But everything wasn't fine. Lisa found herself checking David's website obsessively, looking at the new pieces he had posted and reading the glowing customer reviews. She wanted to call him, but what would she say? That she missed organizing his receipts? That she missed their quiet dinners and easy conversations? Jennifer noticed her distraction too. You've been here a month, and you still seem unhappy, she said one evening. What's going on? I'm not unhappy. I'm just dusting. Lisa, talk to me. What's really bothering you? Lisa looked at her sister, this successful, confident woman who had everything figured out. How could she explain that? All of this felt wrong somehow. I keep thinking about the cabin, she admitted. The furniture guy's place? David's place, yes. Jennifer sat down next to her on the couch. Lisa, you can't seriously be thinking about going back there. Why not? Because it's not real life. It's not sustainable. What happens when you get older? What about retirement, health insurance, building equity? You can't live in some fantasy forever. What if it's not a fantasy? What if it's just a different kind of life? A different kind of life with a man you barely know, in the middle of nowhere, with no security or future planning? I do know him. I know him better than I've ever known anyone. Jennifer looked at her with frustration. Lisa, I think you're romanticizing this situation because you were vulnerable when it happened. You were homeless and desperate, and he helped you. That doesn't mean he's your soulmate or that living in his cabin is your destiny. I never said he was my soulmate. Then what is this about? Lisa was quiet for a long time, trying to find the words. It's about feeling like myself. For the first time in my adult life, I was in a place where I could just be who I am without trying to impress anyone or prove my worth or earn my place. You can be yourself here too. Can I? Because every conversation we have is about how I should advance my career or improve my situation or plan for the future. When do I get to just exist and be enough as I am? Jennifer looked hurt. I'm trying to help you build a stable life. I know you are, and I'm grateful. But maybe stability isn't the only thing that matters. What else is there? Happiness. Peace. Feeling like your life has meaning. And you think you can only find those things in that cabin? Lisa thought about it honestly. I don't know, maybe not. But I know I felt them there, and I don't feel them here. So what are you going to do? Lisa looked at the wooden bird on the coffee table, then at her sister's concerned face. I think I need to go back, she said quietly. Lisa, no, you're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. If you do this, if you throw away this opportunity and go back to playing house in the woods, I can't support that decision. I'm not asking you to support it. I'm just asking you to accept it. I can't watch you ruin your life. And I can't live my life trying to meet your definition of success. The words hung between them, creating a distance that hadn't been there before. When? Jennifer asked finally. Tomorrow. I'll call my boss and give my notice. I can take a bus back. Just like that. Just like that. That night, Lisa packed her few belongings and wrote a letter to her sister, trying to explain what she couldn't say out loud. That some people were meant for corporate success and city living, but maybe she wasn't one of them. That safety and happiness weren't always the same thing. That love and life sometimes required taking risks that looked foolish from the outside. She left the letter on the kitchen counter and caught an early bus back to the mountains, back to the place that felt like home, even if she wasn't sure what would be waiting for her there. The bus ride back to the mountains felt completely different from the trip to Seattle. This time, Lisa watched the cities give way to forests and peaks with growing excitement instead of sadness. With each mile, she felt more like herself again. She had used most of her savings for the bus ticket and had no idea what she would find when she got back to David's cabin. Maybe he had hired someone else to help with the business. Maybe he would be polite but distant, having moved on from their friendship. Maybe coming back was the biggest mistake of her life. But as the bus pulled into the small mountain town, Lisa knew she had made the right choice. This place felt like home in a way that Seattle never had. She took a taxi to the road leading to David's cabin, then walked the last mile, her small suitcase bumping along behind her. It was late afternoon, and the autumn light was golden on the trees. The mountains looked exactly as she remembered them, timeless and peaceful. As she approached the cabin, she could hear the sound of David's saw coming from the workshop. Her heart started beating faster. What would she say to him? How would she explain her return? She walked up to the front door and knocked, the same door where she had collapsed in the snow 6 months ago. This time she was choosing to be here. The saw stopped and she heard footsteps approaching. The door opened and there was David, looking exactly the same except for a bit more beard and some sawdust in his hair. His face went through several expressions when he saw her: surprise, confusion, and then something that looked like joy. Lisa, he said as if he couldn't quite believe she was real. Hi, David. They stared at each other for a moment, neither sure what to say first. How was Seattle? He asked finally. It was fine. Good job, nice apartment, all the things I was supposed to want. Can I come in? I have some things to tell you. David stepped aside and Lisa walked into the cabin that had haunted her dreams for the past month. Everything was exactly as she remembered it, except the kitchen table was covered with papers again and there were dishes piled in the sink. Sorry about the mess, David said, following her gaze. I've been swamped with orders and I'm not as good at the organizational stuff as you were. Were? David looked at her carefully. Are you just visiting or ... double quote? That depends, Lisa said, setting down her suitcase. Is there still a job here for me? Always, David said immediately. But Lisa, are you sure? You had a real career opportunity. In Seattle, security, benefits, a future. I had all those things, Lisa agreed, and I was miserable. She sat down at the familiar kitchen table. Can I ask you something? Of course. When I left, did you miss me? David was quiet for a moment. Every day. Why didn't you call me? Because I wanted you to make your own choice without any pressure from me. I didn't want you to feel obligated to come back just because I was lonely, Lisa smiled. Even when you missed me, you were still thinking about what was best for me, instead of what you wanted. That's what you do for people you care about. David, I need to tell you something. These past months weren't just about business for me. David's expression became more serious. What do you mean? I mean that working together, living here, spending time with you. It became about more than just having a job and a place to stay. Lisa, I'm not asking you to feel the same way, she said quickly. I know you're still grieving Amy, and I respect that, but I needed to be honest about my feelings. David sat down across from her, his hands clasped on the table. What are your feelings? Lisa took a deep breath. I love you. Not because you saved my life, and not because I'm grateful for your help, but because of who you are. Because you're kind without keeping score. Because you make beautiful things with your hands. Because you listen to me and see me and value me for who I am. She paused. And because you let me leave when I needed to figure things out, even though it hurt you. David was quiet for a long time, looking out the window at the mountains. I thought about you every day too, he said finally. I told myself it was just because I missed having help with the business, but that wasn't true. He looked back at her. I was scared to let myself care about you. After Amy died, I thought I was done with love. I thought I had used up my capacity for that kind of feeling. And now? Now, I think maybe there are different kinds of love. What I felt for Amy was one kind, but what I feel for you, it's different, not less, just different. Lisa felt her heart start to race. What do you feel for me? I feel like you're my partner, not just in business, but in life. I feel like we fit together in a way that makes both of us better. David reached across the table and took her hand. I love you too, Lisa. I was just too scared and too stubborn to admit it. Lisa felt tears start in her eyes. Really? Really? They sat there holding hands across the kitchen table, the same table where they had shared so many meals and conversations and moments of growing trust. So what happens now? Lisa asked. Now we build a life together, a real partnership in business and in everything else. What about Amy? David smiled sadly. Amy will always be part of who I am, but loving her doesn't mean I can't love you too. In fact, I think Amy would like you. She always believed that love multiplies instead of divides. Lisa thought about that. I'd like to hear more stories about her sometime. I'd like to tell them to you. Over the next few hours, they talked about everything that had happened during their time apart. David showed her how the business had grown even more and how much he had struggled to manage it all alone. I hired a local teenager to help with some of the filing, he said, but she quit after a week. Said my system was impossible to understand, Lisa laughed. That's because you went back to your old system of shoving everything in boxes. I tried to maintain your organization, but I'm hopeless at it. Lucky for you, I'm back. That evening, they walked around the property together, David showing her the changes he had made and the projects he was working on. As the sun set behind the mountains, they sat on the front porch where Lisa had once collapsed in the snow. I want to ask you something, David said, and I want you to feel completely free to say no. Okay, would you like to be more than just business partners? Would you like to try being life partners? Lisa looked at him, this man who had saved her life and then given her the freedom to choose her own path, who had loved her enough to let her go and loved her enough to welcome her back. Yes, she said. I would like that very much. David pulled out a small wooden box from his pocket. I made this while you were gone. Inside the box was a simple ring carved from wood with tiny mountain bluebirds etched around the band. It's not traditional, David said, but neither are we. Lisa held up her hand, and David slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. David, she said, I want you to know that I'm not here because I need rescuing anymore. I'm here because I choose to be, because this is where I belong. I know, he said. That's what makes this real. They sat together on the porch as the stars came out over the mountains, planning their future and their expanded business. They talked about the website improvements Lisa wanted to make, the new workshop space they could build, and the life they would create together. One more thing, Lisa said as they were heading inside. I want to send some money to my sister every month. Of course, why? Because even though she was wrong about what would make me happy, she was right about taking care of the future. I want to show her that it's possible to follow your heart and still be responsible. David smiled. I think that's a perfect balance. As they walked into the cabin together, Lisa realized that she had finally found what she had been searching for without even knowing it. Not just love, but the kind of love that made her more herself instead of less. Not just security, but the kind of security that came from being truly known and accepted. She had learned that some gifts in life, the most precious ones, really were freely given, and that sometimes the best way to repay a gift was to pass it forward, creating more kindness in the world instead of trying to balance some cosmic debt. Outside, snow began to fall gently on the mountains, marking the beginning of another winter. But this time, Lisa watched it from inside a warm home, surrounded by love that asked for nothing except the chance to grow.